Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for your patience. All great things take time, and we have taken a little bit of extra time tonight, but it will be totally worth it after you hear tonight's speakers. I'm Dewana Horn. I'm Associate Dean in the College of Business at Texas Women's University. I also serve as Associate Professor of Management. I've been at TWU a little over 10 years. I teach in the graduate program at the Houston campus. So I teach in the MBA program. This segment tonight, this is our fourth session of the TWU Bold Leadership Speaker Series. And we have had some good topics that are of interest to women who are advancing to the C-suite. Well, tonight we have two women who have advanced to the C-suite. So we have a few good women to talk to you tonight about their leadership experiences in this session. This session is brought to you by the TWU Jane Nelson Institute for Women's Leadership and the College of Business at TWU. Both organizations within Texas Women's University have a mission to advance women into leadership positions. And that's what we're all about in the College of Business at Texas Women's University. We offer bachelor's degrees in all business disciplines: marketing, management, finance, accounting, sports management, healthcare administration. We also offer an MBA degree, 100% online, with a number of emphases. We have emphasis on women in leadership, human resource management. We have emphasis on sports management, marketing. I know I'm leaving something out. Healthcare management. We also have a dual degree in healthcare administration and business administration, and we have a standalone degree in healthcare administration. So as you can see, we focus a lot on healthcare as well as women in leadership. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our speakers for tonight. We have two women who have reached the C-suite within their industries and within their organizations. And we have another phenomenal speaker who's going to moderate their conversation as they talk about their experiences. So just a little background on this speaker series. We've already talked about some things of interest to women leaders. We've talked about women competing within each other and the systems that create that competition. So we talked about crabs in a barrel. We've talked about leading in a virtual world and what that means, especially in this global pandemic. And we've also talked about imposter syndrome. So those feelings we cultivate within ourselves as a result of our environment that we're not good enough. So we've talked about how to navigate all those things, and you'll hear live stories tonight of women who have successfully navigated those things throughout their careers. I'm going to start off with our moderator tonight. Our moderator is L.A. Roberts. L.A. is a two-time international best-selling author, and she has more than 10 years of experience as a transformational speaker, breakthrough strategist, and executive consultant. She is also the founder and CEO of I Inspire Global. Her first book, From Breakdown to Breakthrough, Life After Death, has earned her a Platinum Author Award and features on major networks such as NBC, ABC, CBS, and Fox. She has also received the Valiant Warrior Award, among other honors. LA's second book, The Root Cause, A Journey to Heal Your Inner Child, released in August of 2019. In addition to ranking number one in 3 U.S. categories, she also ranked number one in France, German categories, and received a number one ranking in 2 Australian categories. Ms. Roberts is currently a radio personality on iHeartRadio with her show From My Heart to Yours, and she has received the honor of being named one of the top 50 most influential women by VIP Global Magazine. Everybody welcome L.A. Roberts, who's going to moderate our conversation tonight. Thank you for being here, L.A.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. The next person that I want to introduce is Wanda Thomas. Okay, welcome, Wanda. Wanda Thomas is the Executive Director of Catholic Charities Incorporated in Jackson, Mississippi. She holds a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in social work and has worked in the field in progressive positions for more than 20 years in positions that facilitated organizational change. She is a licensed clinical social worker and describes herself as being mission-driven with passion for serving others. And I'm sure a lot of more people will agree with that. She enjoys laying foundations that lead to paths of empowerment for the underserved populations, advocacy for policy changes, and being a voice for those in need. I just want to read off a few of her accomplishments since she has become the executive director of Catholic Charities. And I want to give you some background on when she became the executive director of Catholic Charities. She became the director of Catholic Charities in summer of 2019. So we all know that she only had a few months before she was faced with a global pandemic. But even in the midst of that pandemic, she has done some amazing things for her organization. She has led her organization through reaccreditation with the Council on Accreditation, which accredits nonprofit agencies. She has expanded programs to reach more rural areas and populations in Mississippi. She has, in the midst of a global pandemic, she had 0 staff layoffs and 0 program closures. And not only that, she increased service to people who could not travel or access her services and to people who are in underserved populations. So Wanda enjoys developing and implementing strategic plans to increase and maintain efficient and effective organizational practices on the administrative and leadership side. And she is committed to serving the community and to being a servant leader to the team at Catholic Charities Incorporated. Everybody welcome Wanda Thomas. Okay, and then last but not least, I want to welcome Bindu Varghese. And I'll be remiss if I didn't start off by saying we claim her fully at TWU. She got her undergraduate degree and her MBA from Texas Women's University. So with more than 20 years in healthcare, consisting of clinical and operational roles, Bindu Varghese brings a solid understanding of overall hospital operations to the hospital she serves. She has been with her current hospital for more than 14 years, so she has worked her way through the ranks. And she served as director of therapy operations for 8 of those years. Bindu has a clinical background in occupational therapy and also holds a master's degree in business. Did I say from Texas Women's University? Okay. Since her time at Encompass Health of Sugar Land, she has led the team to its successful completion of many large-scale projects. Through her tenure as Chief Executive Officer, Bindu has gained a vast knowledge of planning, organizing, and directing the hospital to ensure quality patient care is provided and the financial integrity of the hospital is maintained. She is well-versed in compliance with applicable laws, regulations, policies, and procedures as it relates to the hospital. She has also served on Encompass Health National Therapy Leadership Board and Diversity Council. Bindu currently serves on the board of directors for Texas Women's University Foundation. Bindu is driven and passionate in providing quality care to patients and getting them back home to their loved ones. And might I add some context about her leadership role at Encompass Health? She started her leadership role in spring of 2019. So just like Wanda, she had less than a year in her role before she was faced with a global pandemic that heavily affected all healthcare organizations. So welcome, Bindu.
Thank
Okay.
you so much. I'm so happy to be here with you guys.
Great, and we're happy to have you. Thanks for coming. So I am going to go ahead and leave the stage because these women have some important things to discuss. I'm going to go ahead and leave the stage, and I will be back to wrap up our discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, hello, ladies.
Hello.
Hello there. How are you?
I am absolutely amazing. How are you?
Good. Thank you.
You all are good. Well, first of all, I would like to just say thank you for allowing me the opportunity to be in the presence of such greatness. Listening to you all's, your bios, I'm like, seriously, I get to speak to these amazing women. And so just first being some of the most great people on the planet, thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity to even be in your space and to share the stage with you. That's number one. Second thing I want to ask you is I want to know, and I'll start with Wanda first.
Okay.
I want to know, um, what was your journey like making it into the C-suite? Like, how was that for you?
LA, my journey started more than 20 years ago in the field of social work. I started out as a frontline direct service worker. At that time, never had sights set on the C-suites, just wanted to serve people working on the front line. Little did I know that experience on the front line taught me how to meet people where they are, as well as being able to engage them. Those are two skills that really were needed on this journey to the C-suites. So after working the frontline as a frontline team member, I then entered into some administrative roles where I worked with things such as research and practice in the social work field. And that gave me the two sides. I was able to see both sides for each perspective, the service side as well as that administrative side. So when you're going to expand your leadership in an agency, it really does serve you great to have both sides of those. And I think that helped me a lot with this journey because I was able to help our service staff see the big picture on the administrative side that comes along with sustainability when you're going to be a leader in your career and within an agency. So
Yeah.
that was kind of the journey from direct services to management role to now executive position.
And you know what? I thank you for that because a lot of the time CEOs or, the ones that make it to the C-suite, they don't understand the people that are actually doing the grunt work, so to speak. They can't relate to the people that are actually in the field. And so for you to say, I started here and you have a heart for the people that are below you. So that not below you, but a heart for the people that are actually running the company, so to speak, that you can actually speak to. So that's really, really good. I appreciate you for saying that. So let me ask you, Bindu, what do you think attributed to your success in getting to the C-suite? Because there is a lot of people that want to be where you are, and not just a lot of people, but a lot of women, a lot of young girls that are looking to get into corporations and things like that. What do you think attributed to your success in order to make it into the C-suite?
I think for me, LA, it was more of, much like Wanda said, I mean, I started off here in this hospital as just it's called a PRN, occupational therapist. So it's as needed, not even full time. And so whatever job I did here when I started 14 years ago, I gave it my 150%, even when nobody's looking. Whatever I did, I put my heart and soul in it. When I was treating patients, I envisioned anybody that I treated as though they're my mother, my father, my brother, my sister. And so I think what I did is I just put in as my 150% in everything I did. And I, just like Wanda, I never imagined myself to be in this position. I pinch myself to this very day. I'm surprised I haven't burned down the hospital yet, but it's almost like when you do that, I think you get noticed. You know, you don't necessarily have to toot your own horn. Hey, I did this project, this and that. But it was more of people seeing things in me. So when positions opened up within this hospital, I was coaxed into, hey, Bindu, you should try and apply for this position. As much as I resisted as, you know, as a full-time OT, I moved to a lead OT. A couple years after that, I moved into the director of operations role. And all these roles I was coaxed into being into these roles because I think managers, supervisors, directors, you know which ones are your star players and which one will put in the work. And I truly feel like it's just me giving it my 150 in every role that I've done here at this hospital.
You know what? What I'm hearing from both of you are you have servants' hearts. You actually just went into it and you just did your job, and then you looked up, and then you were doing another job, and then you looked up and you just were doing another job. And through the entire process, you did it because this is what you love to do and you have the heart for it. And I think as CEOs, that's the most important thing, because some people make it to the top just in the grind and the competition of it all, and they don't really get the whole picture, the full picture of the love of the people, the love of the work, and wanting to do it. And so I congratulate you both for making it from the bottom, literally, and climbing up, basically not looking to climb, but being pushed up because you were both seen. And as women, that's basically what we need, to be seen for what we're doing, not just because we're women, but because the hard work is there. So let me ask you this. What is the best work-related advice you have ever received from someone that's close to you, or maybe someone that was just watching you from afar? Someone that said, you know what, I've seen you in the break room and I need to tell you this, girl. So what was that? Let me start with, I want that from both of you because I think that's good and juicy. Wanda, you go, and then I'm going to come back to you, Bindu.
Years ago, a former male supervisor told me, when you finally learn and know your worth, that's when you will do great things. Now, when he said that to me those years ago, I didn't know what he meant, really did not understand it. I do now at this day and time, but it took me some years to grow. And that's what he said. When you grow and you learn your worth, you will then do great things.
That's good. That is so good. I hope you all are listening to that, because that is information that everybody needs to know. When you find your worth, when you tap into who you are on the inside, not on the outside, not what other people are saying you are, but who you know you are, then you go places that you never ever imagined you would go. That is really good. What about you, Bindu?
Yeah. And Wanda, I love that you said that, because sometimes early on you don't know your worth, right? And then once you figure that out, I mean, it's endless what you can do. But so to answer that question, just like Wanda said, when I was a treating occupational therapist, the CEO at the time, one day the director of operations was there and the next day they weren't. The CEO called me into her office and she said, Bindu, I think, you should apply for the director of operations role. And I said, no way. I don't know anything about management. I can't do it. I don't know. I'm going to fail. You don't want me to do this. And the one thing that she told me, and just like Wanda, I didn't understand it until years and years later. But she told me, she's like, Bindu, you need to learn how to get out of your comfort zone. And, of course I pushed. I was like, I don't know what that means. And I like being comfortable and, things like that. But those words have resonated so deeply inside of me. So when I mentor other, younger females, wanting to move into management roles, I have learned through the years that when you when you go into an uncomfortable situation or you get out of your comfort zone, you're about to level up.
Oh, yes.
So that, and I'm a firm believer of that. So
That's good. And getting comfortable with being uncomfortable,
that's correct.
because
Right?
nothing great happens in comfortability.
Nope.
You know, you can sit and you can be comfortable, and, you know, you can just going along,
Right. Yeah.
and you're, go ahead.
And if just to Wanda's, what Wanda said, if you know your worth, if you really know your worth and what you're capable of doing, and you're put into a uncomfortable position or job or opportunity or project, but you know your worth, you know you're going to prevail, you know?
Yes. Yes. And the stretching, you know, the stretching and the learning and the showing up, because a lot of people don't realize that you just showing up says a lot about you, and you're in that position because you're qualified. I had to tell someone that the other day. They were, I don't know if I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're here. So
Yep.
if you're here, then you're qualified. So don't second guess your qualification. Just put your head down, figure out what needs to be done, and move forward.
That's right.
But, oh, this is good. Listen, we got a question.
Okay.
We do have a question. All right. So Shamika Thompson, hey, Shamika, what hurdles did you face as women of color? Now that's really good, because we need to know that. And Ms. Thompson asked that question. So what hurdles did you face as women of color?
Okay. I'll go first. So for years and for generations and still today, there are a lot of misconceived preconceptions out there for women, women of color. There are characteristics that to be a successful leader, you must have, such as being assertive, being competitive, being comfortable in making decisions. Now, for us as women, when we sometimes demonstrate those particular characteristics, they're viewed a little bit differently coming from us sometimes versus the males. Our assertiveness can be determined to be us being angry sometimes, or us not being competent in our ability and our skill. And that's not it. We just know as leaders what it takes to get the job done. But unfortunately, at times, because of our race or because of that gender, we're termed as something else instead of being that successful leader that's able to forge ahead and get things done.
As we do. Bendo?
Yeah. So for me, some of the challenges I faced being a woman of color is just kind of being overlooked in a room. In my company, there's 138 hospitals, and majority of the CEOs, and it's 138 hospitals all around the nation, including Puerto Rico and just everywhere. And when I first started as a CEO, I was the first, there were women CEOs. They were not women of color, but I was the first woman of color to be a CEO. So what I noticed through this journey, you would be in a room with maybe predominantly male, and you would be overlooked in a conversation. Okay. And they're just looking over you like you're not there. Mm-hmm. And, you do have to be assertive and, find yourself at the table. You might need to push those elbows out a little bit and scoot on in and, and speak. And there is a very polite, professional way to do that as well. But it's speaking up, sometimes when you get in that crowd and you feel uncomfortable, get out of your comfort zone. Even though it's uncomfortable, say something. You have things that you can say that are smart and intelligent. Those were some, I'll tell you a funny story, actually. When I got into this role as a CEO, I'm in this role, and I had to make a decision regarding the hospital, and I happened to be in the room with three vendors and two of my male counterparts, my directors. And so I had to make a big decision, spend a lot of money on the hospital. Well, these men were just talking to the men over here when I was the one that was supposed to make the decision whether we were going to move forward or not. So I just sat back and I just let them talk. And then they came to the point like, are we going to do this or not? And I had to say, well, that would be my decision. So let's talk about this again. Since you guys talked amongst yourself, let's figure this out. So here are some of the questions that I have, but you have to make that space for yourself. If the door shut, I've said this before, sometimes you have the door shut or slowly shutting. You might want to just push that door open. The door shut in your face, climb through the window. The window's closed, come through the chimney. You've got to find it somehow.
Right. There's always a crack in the wall. Slide through it.
Slide on through. Yeah.
And they'll go, I tried to keep her out, but you didn't close the vents. So, so I'm here and I deserve to be here. And that's really good. We have 2 more questions in the chat. We're going to keep this thing going because this is some great information. And I'm positive that people are learning from this. So let's see. Ashley Starr is asking, do you feel you are supported being in the upper echelons of the organization? So you know what? I'll start with you, Bindu, and then I'll come back up to you, Wanda.
Yeah. I think I definitely do feel supported because the reason being is you have to earn respect. Even coming into this role, a lot of the directors underneath me were, older than me, and they're thinking, who's this girl coming in here thinking she knows this and that? And plus a lot of the directors who I was directors with, I'm now their boss. So it takes time. When you start having successes and you start building good rapports with your directors and other colleagues, I think I earned respect. And then I was supported from not only the hospital directors here at my hospitals, but even from the regional and the national teams. So it takes time, but I do feel
that you were supported.
That I was supported. Sorry, I was reading the next question. Yes.
Oh, look, I was like, wait, go ahead, Wanda. And then we're going to come to the next question. I need to know this from Wanda, too, because that support is important, especially being a woman and then being a woman of color, then getting put at the top of the company. Sometimes it can be cold at the top. That's a song. I don't know which one it is, but it's cold up there. You don't want to be cold.
That's right. And I'm glad you said that because I always tell people leadership, it can't be about a popularity contest. It can because in order to be supported and get that support, it goes back to absolutely earning that respect. So one thing I try to make sure I model is never to ask anyone to do anything I'm not willing to do myself.
Oh, that's good.
Played a strong avenue for me being able to be supported and get the respect, not only from the team members here, but from others out in the community, them knowing or seeing me and knowing I truly value and know what the term servant leader means. So that's how I work. That's how I lead. I'm here to serve the team. So I think because of that, and it did take some time, people had to see. People have to see. You have to demonstrate. You have to make sure that you're going to stand behind the words that you say. They have to see it in action. So because of that, trying to be an exemplary leader and model the behavior that you want others to do, I think that has helped me get the support and be surrounded by a lot of support.
Now that's good. That is so good. You have to be the example. You have to be the example and remain touchable. I think sometimes people that are in higher positions or you CEOs, they're so untouchable. You can't ask them a question. You can't move. You can't talk to them. But to be open and to be in that position and to actually remember when you had a question, you wanted to know something, that remember when is always a good place to be because you got here, but just as fast as you can get here, you can fall back down. So be careful who you talk to. And okay, that's a whole nother conversation. Let's get on to this question that we have here. I believe this is Rama. Please forgive me if I've mispronounced your name. I do apologize. But let me ask your question. Did the organizations you worked at support your growth and moving up in leadership? So let's start with Wanda, then I'll come back down to Bindu because I think you all have very, very interesting concepts on both of the questions. So I want to hear from both of you.
I have been able to work at some organizations that were very supportive with growth and in my growth and leadership. Again, it goes back to people watching you, people paying attention to you. One very important thing we must always remember, what you do when no one else is looking and no one else is paying attention.
That's right.
Is always very important. It speaks to your character and it speaks to your work ethic. So I've always tried to be a person who you do the right thing regardless of what anybody says. And because of that, the organizations I have been at have supported my growth and leadership. There have been times where positions posted, I didn't give them a second look, a second thought. And people approach, or the hiring manager would approach and say, did you not see that position post? Oh, yes, I saw it. But, I've just been in this one only 6 months, so I didn't think that, I needed to apply. There are others that have been here much longer than I have. So I thought that was who you had in mind. And so through their encouragement, I would then apply and I would just go to the next step and the next step. But I always knew or believed a part of that was because of how my work ethic, how hard I work, and having that get it done attitude, willing to look for resolution and not always stuck on the problem.
Yeah.
That's good. That is so good. Bindu.
I love that. And Wanda, the same thing. I mean, do the right thing when no one's looking. That's one of our values here in our hospital. And, as I mentioned before, I mean, you're just giving it your 150%. And if you're doing that, people are watching. Listen, I know who my superstars are here in this hospital, and should something come up, I'm going to do what people did to me and give them a chance as they did to me, and I think that's what it boils down to, is just putting in the work. And I love, Wanda, that you said being part of the resolution versus the problem. You have a lot of staff that, well, I'll just talk about myself. But, there would be a problem in the hospital. Let's just say when I was a director, and other directors would complain and things like that. And instead of complaining, I would ask the CEO, I thought about this. What about if we did this? Do you think that this would help? Being part of the solution, and you get respected for that, instead of looking like, somebody who is always complaining, but you see the positive out of a horrible situation and you're helping, and yep. And that's the way I feel about that. Yeah.
And yep. You know what? And that's really good because you're reaching back and because you're paying attention as other people paid attention to you. And so you said you went to the CEO and said, well, why don't we try this? And now you are the CEO. And is a reason for that, because you came with solutions.
It's almost like I didn't do it intentionally, but it's almost like getting on stage in a way. When you go above and beyond, even if it may not be something that's in your department, but there's an issue, you're in a board meeting and you hear an issue going on and, they can't figure it out. But even if that isn't in your department, you might, lend a helping hand. Hey, I noticed this, but, I could definitely help you out if this, whatever it sounds like, but you're going above and beyond and, helping the team, even though it's not one of your job, essentially.
Yes. Yeah. And that reach back is so important. Mentoring is so important, especially for us as women. When you are in a leadership role, you should have a succession plan at all times. And a succession plan, identify some team members that you can pour into, reach back to, and mentor them. So they are comfortable enough to be willing to come to you to talk about resolutions or this is an idea I have, let's try that. But that's a part of that reach back as well, and remembering where you were where you came from, and reaching back and mentoring other women, encouraging and inspiring them to become leaders as well.
Yeah. Yes. And I have a question. We have a few more questions, but I do have a question. Do you find that women of color find it harder to approach leadership for assistance with, moving up, or, or feeling maybe that they're going to be slighted? Have you ever felt that in any position that you might have, like, okay, they might look at me a little crazy because I'm asking this question, or it may be just not popular to do? They kind of stay quiet.
Some cultures, the culture is such in a manner where you would not feel comfortable asking or inquiring about another role. That culture being that we worked a long time over the past maybe 2 years here, 2.5 years, to work on changing our culture, having a trauma-informed culture. That way team members know you genuinely support them. So you have to make the culture comfortable to team members for them to be comfortable to ask questions or to approach you without having a fear of being slighted. It goes back to that culture and people understanding, yes, you're running a business. Yes, we have to get the business done. However, it's also important to have emotional intelligence. Know your team, know their personalities, know who you're working with. Each person has to, a lot of times, be treated differently. So you can't treat everyone the same. And you have to, be able to make people feel comfortable and make sure that the culture is so that it's comfortable enough for people to be comfortable with asking questions or approaching. I've been places where that culture was just not. Yeah. You knew not to do that.
Yeah, it wasn't inclusive. Right. Do you run into that, Bindu, where people, you may see a spark in someone and go, well, come here for a second, let me talk to you.
Yeah. Right. So, and I think it just exactly to reiterate what Wanda said is just having that culture of, being able to communicate with your team. So I have 15 directors and I make sure I have a one-on-one with each of them every other week. And my conversation with them is, how are you doing? Are there any issues that I can help you out with? What can I do to help you? And I'm opening those conversations. Where do you see yourself? Is this where you're going to land? Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Or what are your ambitions? And you're understanding who they are, opening up that dialogue to where they feel supported. They feel like they can come to you. They don't feel scared to come to you. And I think that's important to build that inclusion within an organization.
That's good. Thank you for that. We have some more questions. Annie is asking, what advice do you give to young women who are balancing family responsibilities, work obligations, and civic engagement? Great question, Annie. Let's see. Go ahead, Wanda.
I can definitely talk about that because I just made some recent changes in my own life to balance things better. Yeah. So it is you can balance it. I had to start intentionally looking at the time spent with work and volunteering and other things, and then comparing it to the time that I had available for hobbies for my family, where of course I realized the hobby part was lacking, the time I was able to spend with that. And so now I intentionally set aside 1 hour in the mornings to go and do a hobby before work, something that makes me feel good, relaxes me, makes my day so much better. Women in roles, in leadership roles, we juggle a lot. We're multitasking. Many of us have families. We have children. We're trying to get the work done as well. And we may have other volunteer activities that we are involved in. But it is so important. Self-care and mental health. We have to find something that allows us to have some time just for us. And that 1 hour, just that 1 hour a day in the mornings has made all the difference in the world for me. And with work-life balance, it's made a big difference.
That is so good. That is so good. Oh, hi, Dr. Horn, you're back. It was just getting good.
I know. Hello, this has been great. The time just flew by. Like, where did the time go? Wow. Okay. So, well, this has been a wonderful conversation, and thank you for sharing your experiences and being candid with our audience about your journeys. This has been really important. I do have a personal connection with each of these CEOs. So, Wanda, hold on, my screen has disappeared. Where's my screen?
I see you though.
Yeah, I said we still see you.
Okay. So Wanda is a longtime friend, and when she just I was listening to her until the end, and I'm totally confused now about this work-life balance thing. And I don't disagree that she's found some balance, but Wanda, what time are you doing this hobby in the morning? Because, and I'm asking you this because you know, and I know that you are an early bird and you wake up, like she already knows, like, do not call me in the morning. Like, no. So I just want to know, so what time?
From 6 to 7 a.m.
Okay, so you really are setting aside, okay, because you get up pretty early. I was just wondering if you were getting up earlier. So that's good because work-life balance is very important. I mean, we have to, even though we occupy these positions, we still have to make time for family and for friends. And I have a personal connection with Bindu as well. Bindu graduated from our MBA program. And I was sitting here listening to her talk about, how, she'll work, she'll do any job. She has a servant heart. And I can totally agree with everything that she's saying. I just remember it was only probably about 3 years ago. I remember her coming to TWU. I had a career fair at the Houston campus, and I contacted her to come and set up a booth, but I thought she was going to send somebody. And she came and set up the booth at the career fair and worked the booth. And we were recruiting for executive jobs for our MBA and healthcare administration people. And she came and set up the booth. So, she really does have a servant heart. And, just watching Wanda along the way, Wanda I call her the social work superstar. The social work superstar. Like she really, when I tell you that she worked, like all of these, as you can see, I was typing in all of their advice. I can't even remember everything that I typed in, but I was typing in all of their advice, and they truly do live by this advice. And ladies, I don't even know if you remember everything that you said. So in my recap, I am going to go ahead and read some of these comments that I was typing in that came straight from you. So, do what you love, know your worth, get out of your comfort zone and level up, show up, move forward, don't be afraid. Somebody acknowledged that sometimes there is an imposter syndrome creeping in, but we know that we have to reject that. Find yourself a place at the table. I love that. Find yourself a place at the table. Speak up. What else did you say? Respect is earned, and it's not a popularity contest. You should have a get it done attitude, and you should be willing to find solutions. Know your superstars, know your star players. Leaders empower leaders. Pay it forward. Go above and beyond. So have organizational citizenship behavior. Mentor future leaders. Have a succession plan. Okay, Jason is putting them up for me. Okay. Reach back. It's all about emotional intelligence. If you're not operating with those 5 dimensions of emotional intelligence, you may be left behind. Make sure the culture is such that people can ask questions within your organization. Strive for an inclusive environment. So these are all of the things that you all have taught us. I mean, next time I have to teach business leadership, I think I'll just invite you all to teach the class for me, because these are all of the things that we teach in organizational behavior and business leadership classes. So we have really enjoyed your conversation, and we have gotten tons of advice. I want to know if there was one thing that you would say made attributed to you being on this journey, like what is the most salient thing, the most important thing that you would say is the cause of you being in the position where you are today?
Well, I guess I'll go first. And, I don't know
Not
if
everybody at once. Go ahead.
I had to think about this because I don't know if I'm not trying to talk about religion, but if I had to say anything, God attributes everything that I do is because of God. But that's just me. But if I had to take religion out of there and think of my next thing, as I mentioned, is just putting in the work, even when it gets hard. Just pushing through that storm, because you'll end up in green pastures on the other side.
Well, Bindu, I'm happy that you said God and that you mentioned your faith, because none of us can reach high if we're not grounded to begin with. So none of us can go high. You have to be grounded in order to even go high. You stay grounded through your faith and through your work ethic. So I appreciate that advice. I think a lot of us need to hear that.
That's right.
Okay. Wanda, what would you say?
Definitely, again, all God. And when you're not willing to conform to what those around us are doing, especially when you know it's not right, because your reputation precedes you. So that has played a part in it as well. That work ethic, being viewed as a self-starter, be a self-motivator, someone who's willing to take initiative and does not wait for directions and not quick to attempt to accomplish things on your own. So all of that, I feel like has played a part in me being in this position, but definitely God is the one who put me here.
Yeah. So you have a very, very strong core work ethic, regardless of any education, regardless of any of your high level experiences, regardless of any of it. The core of who you are as a leader is directly connected to your core work ethic that you probably had when you were working at Wendy's.
Right.
I remember.
Yes, first job.
Okay, so it's all about work ethic, all right. And I know, I know her first job was Wendy's. I know her second one was Foot Locker because I worked there with her. Got me a job, so she does reach back like she said she did.
That's awesome.
LA. If there were any words of wisdom that you would leave with our audience. Now, I know there was one thing that you said while you were talking. You said, do what you love, and you said, and love the people as well. So you acknowledge that, you have to do what you love, but you also have to love and care about the well-being of people who you have to work with and through. And I really appreciated that advice. Is there any other advice that you'd like to give our audience?
Be kind to yourself through the process. So whatever level you are at, whatever you are trying to do or wherever you're trying to go, you will get there, but you have to be kind to yourself. You have to be patient with yourself and realize you're not in a race with anyone, because what's for you is for you and nobody can take it away because God is my anchor and that's what keeps me grounded. So I have to remember that. You're not in competition.
I love that. And that is one of the things that I believe wholeheartedly. What's for you is for
For
you.
you.
And you can
Whether
throw
you
as
want it or
many
not.
tantrums, right? And you can throw as many tantrums about positions you didn't get or opportunities that you felt like you deserve. You can throw as many tantrums about it as you want. You can file lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit. But if it wasn't for you,
It wasn't for you.
it wasn't for you. And guess what? In many cases, you should be glad you didn't get it. Because if it's not for you and it's not designed for you, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be an uphill climb.
It will.
Okay.
There have been doors slammed in my face, and hindsight, looking back, I'm so happy that those doors were slammed in my face. I would not have been successful.
And I totally agree with that. Okay. Well, this has been an outstanding conversation. I'm sure that our audience has learned, and just having access to talk to you all and hear your personal journeys is just invaluable. So I really appreciate your time. I know that you ladies are busy. I can see that both of you are still at the job right now. It's almost 7:00 at night, and I can see that you all are still at the job. So we really, really appreciate you taking the time to speak to our audience tonight and just to inspire. Hopefully people in this audience are inspired to know that you can work your way up through these organizations to reach the C-suite, that you can reach the top, that there is more in store for you, but it comes through some of the basic things. It comes through work ethic. It comes through faith. It comes through hard work. It comes through caring about people. You have to do what you love and love what you do. You have to make sure that you're reaching back. You have to make sure that you're mentoring other people, helping other people, empowering other people. And I think that that's what we've definitely seen from you all tonight. And I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, you all, this ends our fourth session of the TWU Bold Leadership Speaker Series. We will take a break next week for Thanksgiving, but we will be back on November 30th when we will speak with Raquel Lewis, who is the newly appointed Board of Directors at Centerpoint Energy. And that conversation will be moderated by Marie Gilio. So please come and hear what Raquel has to say, because her journey is very interesting too, and it will be beneficial to you. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.